What's up, everybody? Welcome to my review of the Dynamic Discs Emac Judge. Brand new disc, not even on the market yet. Stay tuned to all the Dynamic Discs social media. Also, make sure you follow Eric McCabe himself on social media and keep an eye out. They will let you know when this disc is about to hit the market and the full release date for it. I'm not exactly sure what it is. Also, shout out to Eric because he provided some clips for me to use in this video to show you guys what this thing looks like when he is putting with it, since it's his disc. So, let's get into it. I'm going to actually let Eric do some putting for us right now while I ramble a little bit. The Emac Judge. So, it is a variation of the Judge. It has a much smaller bead, very small bead on this disc. So it is definitely somewhere right in between a Warden and a Judge. It also seems a little shallower as well. And if you guys have been following Eric McCabe and his time on Team DD, he's actually kind of moved around putters quite a bit. He's tried the Mercy and the Judge and a bunch of other different things, and he's kind of been a little bit famous for that over the years, to be honest. And now that he has this disc, basically designed the way he wants it to be by the man himself, Thomas Ekstrom from Latitude 64 over there in Sweden. Here it is. Let's take a look at it. This thing is pretty rad. Prototype, Dynamic Discs. Obviously, this will not be the stamp when it hits the market, so you don't have to really pay too much attention to that. It is a gorgeous burst plastic. This one, I believe, is Classic Blend, so same as Zero Medium. It's got a little bit of flexibility to it, but overall it's pretty firm. Has a little bit of give under the thumb, but it's not really floppy. Definitely a great overall putting plastic blend for most people. I think dig this plastic for sure. We'll say Emac Judge on the bottom there, and this one is 173 grams. Yeah, look at that snowflakey kind of burst to it. Really good looking disc for sure. So, taking a look at it here, you can see it's pretty flat across the top, and hopefully you can kind of see that the bead is like really small. It's barely there. It's really not much to it, but it is not perfectly smooth, beadless, where it would just kind of roll over that edge. So it's kind of a little bit tricky to see. Alright, so let's take a look at this thing next to a few other discs, as I always like to do. Starting with the most obvious, which would be a Judge. And this is a Stumptown Disc Golf Judge that my buddy Andy got for me from a player's pack, pretty much specifically for this reason. He happened to mention that he picked out a Judge, and I was like, oh, that's perfect. I really need one to film this video for the Emac Judge. So let's put it up next to this. Same plastic. It's not burst, obviously, but it's also Classic Blend. And there you can see the much more substantial, much more defined bead on the Judge. There is a pretty good look side by side. I'm also going to try to put them like this so you can see the beads right next to each other. And yeah, once again, Emac Judge, bead very small, probably at half the size or less of the actual regular Judge. I still like the feel of the Judge in the hand. I haven't thrown one in a long time, but I do remember them being more stable and having more fade, both putting and throwing, than the Emac Judge seemed to during its testing. Give me one more look at that before we move on. That is the Judge. BT Soft Crown, full review coming on the Crown as well. Not terribly dissimilar in terms of the way they end up performing out there in the course, but you can see the Crown obviously has that large, nicely defined bead on the bottom. It's also like slightly puddle top, where the Emac Judge is just perfectly flat across the top, and it's got a little bit more of a squared off outside edge as well on the Crown. Crown's a solid disc, like I said. Stay tuned for the review on that one. Enjoyed testing it for sure. My main putter right now is the Zero Medium Keystone. So again, same plastic, similar feel to it for sure. And the Keystone is a relatively, hold on one second here, trying to just make sure I'm not showing you anything I don't want to. Keystone, relatively squared off, relatively shallow as well, completely beadless putter that has a little bit more of a flat underside edge that I like quite a bit. The way my finger rides on that feels good for my putting and my putting grip. So that's the Keystone, and I actually have this thing in plastic. I'm gonna have to take it out real quick. This is from 2017, and it was from the first time I ever ordered custom stamps for the channel. A while ago. First run, 2017. And this is a Warden. This is a Prime Warden, I believe. And let's put it up next to that as well. So, There it is next to the Warden. The Warden does seem to be a little deeper, but really not that much. They're pretty similar. I'm trying to get a closer look at them just on my own here while I sit here. It is kind of like, yeah, they're very similar for sure. And it's been a while since I've thrown a Warden, so I can't really compare them in terms of flight, but there they are. And definitely this disc is going to sit somewhere between the Warden and the Judge. It has somewhat of a bead, but not really, compared to the Judge, which is a much more larger, kind of more defined bead for sure. And then the Warden that has absolutely no bead. This disc kind of sits right in the middle. The bead size and the design of it is actually quite similar to like a Deputy, but this disc is a lot less understable than a Deputy. So all in all, I like the feel. Had no problems putting with this disc. It felt great. Let's talk about the flight of it. Man, pretty fast putter and really nice glide. Really far flying putter. That's something that I wasn't really expecting when we got out there to test this thing, was to like it as much as we did as a thrower. It's a phenomenal driving putter for sure, guys. And inside the circle, it's real point and shoot. It's pretty straight. I would say it's definitely a little bit more floaty on a straight line than I recall a Judge being. The Judge has a little bit more fade to it with that bead. So this thing kind of sits in the middle in terms of stability. It's definitely more stable than a Deputy, quite a bit so. It's much more throwable for the average player. The Deputy's a little bit tricky to control. You got to put it on hyzer and play for a lot of flip up. This thing is pretty neutral off the tee and in the field and on approaches and stuff. Pretty much just flies on the angle quite nicely. But yeah, I think the thing that really stood out for me the most is just how far this thing was going. It's a good far flying throwing putter that I think a lot of players will like. Inside the circle, again, quite point and shoot. You can see how it worked out for Eric. You can see how it worked out for me. I pretty much just pop it out there and it holds the line straight in. Now, I didn't do a lot of longer range putting, but you'll see Eric did some earlier in the video, and he's able to connect with this thing, just keeping it on that rope all the way in. It's not like something you need to play up real high and let it drop in for those longer putts. So really nice glide, great floaty, straight flying putter overall, very neutral in general in terms of the way it flies. It didn't take us very long at all to feel like we knew how to throw it. Again, somewhat akin to the Crown. They flew relatively similar to each other out there in the field for sure, with the Emac, I think, being a little quicker and carrying a little bit more, just a little bit more glide too, but relatively similar in terms of the flight. Definitely noticeably different in terms of the feel. So if you like the Judge or you like the Warden, but you want it to be somewhere kind of slightly in between those two discs, I think this could be a great option for you to check out. And all in all, I think it's going to be a solid disc to add to the lineup. I really think players are going to dig it. And of course, Emac being a big star, I think a lot of players are going to want to bag these to support him as well, and I think that makes perfect sense. Emac's been around forever. Shout out to him once again. It's kind of surreal, honestly, for me to be in contact with him and have him send me clips of him putting and stuff to add to this video, because when I first got into disc golf, he was the reigning world champion, I think, at the time when I first started kind of watching disc golf videos on YouTube. I watched his old In the Bag video from right after that Worlds win more times than I could count, and some of those discs were discs I tried and stuff. So I've been a fan for a long time. I met Eric at 2014 Portland Worlds. I doubt he remembers that, but it is definitely cool and kind of an interesting footnote to actually work with him together to show off his new disc on the market. That's my review on the Emac Judge. Keep your eyes peeled for the release date for this thing coming soon. Again, I'll try to let you know if I find out that information. I'll put it in the comments down below so you can check it out. Thank you so much for watching. Huge shout out to everybody who subscribes to me and supports the channel. I appreciate you guys all. Also, huge thank you to the Disc Golf Nerd Patreon support team. Their continued financial support has been extremely helpful. For as little as $2 a month, you can really help out the channel and be listed in the credits of all of my videos. It's a financial contributor to the channel. I appreciate you all, and I will talk to you very soon. Cheers. Well, that was a crush.
I feel like I crushed that one. Yeah.
Thank you so much for watching, and big thank you to all of my Patreon supporters. If you would like to see your name listed in the credits of all of my videos, go to patreon.com/discgolfnerd.